The strangest part of perfume is that the smell people fall in love with first is often the least important part of the fragrance. And most people never realize it, because when you spray a perfume for the first time, the opening feels like everything. It's bright, sharp, alive. Maybe it smells fresh, sparkling, juicy, clean, and your brain instantly decides, this smells expensive, or I don't like this. But here's the problem. That version of the fragrance is already disappearing while you're smelling it. Those are the top notes, and they were never designed to last. The idea of top notes comes from something surprisingly physical: evaporation. Long before perfume became luxury branding and marketing campaigns, perfumers noticed a simple pattern. Some materials vanished almost immediately, others stayed for hours, and some barely changed at all. Eventually, perfumers began imagining fragrance vertically: light materials rising first and deeper materials staying lower and longer. That's where the language came from: top, heart, base. Not because perfume literally has layers floating on top of each other, but because different materials evaporate at different speeds. Top notes are usually made from the most volatile materials in the fragrance: citrus oils, aromatic herbs, fresh fruits, light aldehydes, things like bergamot, lemon grapefruit, mint neroli. These molecules are small and energetic. They evaporate fast. That's why top notes feel alive the moment you spray them. Your brain experiences them almost like a burst of light. And this is where fragrance becomes psychological, because top notes are not just the beginning of the perfume. They're the beginning of your judgment. Perfumers know something important. People decide how they feel about a fragrance incredibly quickly, sometimes within seconds. So the opening has a very specific job: to capture attention immediately. In many ways, top notes behave like movie trailers. They're designed to create anticipation, not to tell the whole story, and sometimes they can even be slightly deceptive. A fragrance can open bright, airy, citrusy, and become dark, smoky, woody 20 minutes later, which means many people are not actually choosing perfumes. They're choosing openings. This became especially important in the 20th century when department store perfume counters became popular. Customers would test dozens of fragrances quickly. Perfumers realized if the opening didn't impress instantly, the fragrance would be ignored. So openings became brighter, cleaner, more explosive. This is one reason modern perfumes often feel very strong in the first few minutes. They are competing for attention. One fascinating example is Dior Sauvage. A huge part of its popularity comes from the opening: sharp bergamot, freshness, immediate projection. The top note structure is engineered to feel clean and energetic almost instantly. That immediate impact is part of why people recognize it so quickly. Another famous example is Aventus. The opening, especially the pineapple and bergamot combination, became legendary. What's interesting is that many people associate Aventus almost entirely with that opening, even though it changes dramatically later. The top notes became more culturally famous than the fragrance's full evolution. And then there's something like Chanel No. 5. Its opening shocked people when it first appeared because of the aldehydes. At the time, many fragrances still smelled relatively natural, but Chanel No. 5 opened with something abstract, sparkling, airy, almost cold. People weren't smelling flowers anymore. They were smelling atmosphere. And top notes became part of emotional storytelling, not just freshness. But here's the part most people never learn. Top notes are usually the least reliable way to judge fragrance quality, because they are designed for impact, not depth. A cheap fragrance can have an amazing opening, and an incredible fragrance can smell strange at first, especially in niche perfumery. Some expensive fragrances almost intentionally avoid easy openings because they're built around development over time instead of instant appeal. This is why beginners often dislike niche perfumes initially. Their brains are expecting brightness, cleanliness, immediate familiarity, but instead they get smoke, leather woods, strange textures, and without the friendly top note structure, the fragrance feels confusing. So how do you actually learn to understand top notes? The easiest way is comparison. Take a lemon, a grapefruit, a bergamot fragrance. Smell them side by side. Notice how citrus notes aren't just fresh. Some feel bitter metallic, sparkling green dry. Your brain starts learning texture instead of labels. That's the beginning of real fragrance perception. Another useful exercise: spray a fragrance and smell it. Immediately after 5 minutes, after 20 minutes, pay attention to what disappears first. That disappearing brightness? That's usually the top structure fading away. Most people never notice this transition because they only smell perfume once. But once you start paying attention, you realize fragrance is moving all the time. And maybe that's the most interesting thing about top notes. They teach you that perfume is not a static object. It's an experience unfolding through time. The opening isn't the fragrance, it's the invitation, the first sentence, the part that gets your attention before the deeper story begins. And once you realize that, you may never smell your perfumes the same way again.